welcome back to the crypt. This is chaos, and I just moved in, so this has got to stop. This is too small of a closet for this, so I need to reorganize this whole place. So I thought since I'm cleaning out my closet, we might as well clean out, you know, the skeletons in the writing closet too, because I know. That's where he was. Okay. Anyway, like I was saying, there's some skeletons in the writing closet, mainly concerning NaNoWriMo, and the fact that I see every single year people blame NaNoWriMo for a large multitude of sins, the main one being blaming people for being word count crazy. And I want to talk about that in the community chat because I don't agree at all. And it's not that I don't agree because I use NaNoWriMo and have for years, so much as it is because I'm old and I remember when NaNoWriMo first started. NaNoWriMo is about a lot of really young people's programs. Particularly, there's the Young Writer program that they run, which is fantastic. They've been doing that for years. Libraries are involved as well. If you've never gone to any write-ins in person, they usually use local libraries. Local libraries are very involved in NaNoWriMo. I think the blame for NaNoWriMo, especially on this platform in particular, is really misplaced. Because a lot of people are saying that NaNoWriMo is the reason why so many writers don't have very long attention spans, why they're really obsessed with word counts. But I think the reality is, isn't that the community's fault? Because like I said, like NaNoWriMo has always been about, first and foremost, the education and, I don't know, uplifting, I guess, of young people being empowered to write. That's like one of the main objectives. It's not the only objective. There are adults involved in NaNoWriMo. There have always been adults involved in NaNoWriMo. Don't get me wrong here. I'm not saying it's all about kids, because it isn't. But children do make up a major element of their demographic. In fact, I would say most of the demographic of NaNoWriMo is towards younger people. And I don't want to say this in a way that, you know, everything needs to be for kids and safe for kids. That's not what I mean. It's more along the lines of the main target audience is not seasoned, already published authors. I guess that's the way I'm saying it. Seasoned published authors were always involved with the project, as far as I'm aware. So they've always been involved, but it was never the point. The point was people who enjoyed writing, whether they were published or not, were like, hey, let's do a fun challenge thing because it's fun to do something at the same time as other people because you can rant to each other and have a good old time talking about your troubles. And that was really the main reason. It was this fun little challenge. And initially, word counts weren't that big of a deal. I mean, they used it as a general benchmark just so they knew where each other were, but it's not like they were doing any extreme counting or calculating. It was pretty much just like, let's try to have fun this month, just like a writing event, and that's all it is. It's not deep. Honestly, a lot of people who say that NaNoWriMo is toxic, I don't think it's NaNoWriMo that's being toxic. I say it's the community. I think the community around NaNoWriMo has become toxic over the years, and that's not NaNoWriMo's fault. I think there are a lot of people who, because whenever you get a large group of people together, there are a couple people who become really, really stickler and fixate on certain things. And I think those individuals have kind of created almost a gatekeepy weird thing about it, where they're like, well, if you don't complete X number of words per day, you're not a real writer. That's the toxicity, and it has nothing to do with NaNoWriMo. I think the community's always had this problem. Before NaNoWriMo even came around, before the internet, I can bet you there were writers out there that were like, well, if you aren't able to type out this many pages on a typewriter per hour, you're not a real writer. You're not seasoned. I can bet you anything that this has been going on since the dawn of time. So any toxicity level you can think of is not near, what even is this container? Anyway, I don't think what we experience as toxicity within the community is anything new. I think this is just humans being humans and not having boundaries for themselves and others. For me personally, I just don't hang out with writers that have that kind of attitude. If your attitude is going to be, I don't think you're a real writer unless you do this amount of productivity per day, I want nothing to do with you. Different people have different needs, different capacities. I know some people who, like, they've written entire books back to back and then took 3 years off for family reasons. They didn't stop becoming a writer during the 3 years they had off. They were just focusing on other things. Art is sadly a luxury. Not everyone can just participate in art 24/7. Being able to do that and somehow pay your bills and be able to survive is extreme blessing. And a lot of us don't have that. Is what it is. So that's my boundary. Also, we need to think about boundaries of ourselves. Like, how much are we able to complete as individuals? Like, my boundary for this, for those of you who have been following me, I did time blocking, and I have kept to having 2 days a week that I do not write. Period. I do not write at all during those 2 days because I have other things going on that are incredibly taxing and time consuming, and I don't have the time. And forcing myself to do that, which would mean that I wouldn't have the time to do dishes and other things that are necessary to upkeep my house because I live alone and I don't have people to help me. Like, what are we doing that contributes to toxicity? Like, how do we talk about our projects? How do we talk about what we're doing? Like, honestly, a lot of the live streams that are here on this platform get more views than the official NaNoWriMo channels half the time, which means that the community has a way bigger voice than they think they do. So instead of blaming NaNoWriMo as a non-profit organization for this trend in the community, I think that we all need to be held accountable to how we talk about our projects, how we talk about word counts, how we talk about productivity in general, because that is what's toxic, how we converse about productivity. Because a lot of us, myself included, I throw myself under the bus along with everybody else. I've been guilty of this sin just as much as a lot of other people, where I have talked down about my productivity or said, oh, I only completed this simply because my goal was higher and I didn't meet it, because of course I didn't, because my goal was insanely high. And I'm a human being and I get tired and there was no way I was going to meet that. I think we should just be a little bit more conscious of the goals we're setting for ourselves, about our boundaries, about rest. Not just work, but with rest, and being serious about it, and being honest when we talk about that stuff. And your self-worth as a writer is not attached to whether or not you hit certain goalposts. And I think we need to be a little bit more firm about being sure we don't do that anymore. Holding ourselves to some impossible standard and then being very vicious towards ourselves and other writers when people don't meet those standards, when we don't meet those standards. Because us being vicious about that online is not doing what, like, us being the sacrificing, like, you know, in torment author is not helping people. It's not helping us, that's for sure. And it's not helping young writers either, because they see that and they think that they also need to be held to that impossible standard, which just perpetuates this toxic cycle. We are the toxicity, and we should know better. We know words are important. Anyway, that's just me, in my personal opinion. I'm sure you all have yours. NaNoWriMo's been going on a long time, and also, this isn't to say that NaNoWriMo is a spotless, completely clean organization, because it's got its own dramas. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. How do you feel towards things like NaNoWriMo and writing events in general? Do you think they are useful to the community? Do they think they hold writing communities back? Why? Do you think that this should even be a discussion? I know this comes up a lot. I personally think it's a more nuanced discussion than people tend to treat it. Maybe I'm just old. If you like this video, please make sure you give it a thumbs up. It helps the algorithm a bajillion times. And also, again, please let me know in the comments. Seriously, please leave a comment. It does a world of good for me. And I always like hearing your guys' opinions, including when they're different from mine. Sometimes especially when they're different from mine. It looks nice. Can I just, like, not put clothes in there? That's not in the cards. I wish I could be a minimalist. That'd be nice. Can you imagine me being a minimalist? I couldn't do it.